Job King on Job King on
Job Kim and
Job King Job King
So it's not for today at all.
okay.
You want to?
Yeah, I'm gonna move closer. Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. It's not for today. Will he be teaching it another day? Okay. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
Kesa woman도 이 카드 woman도 장비 갖고 했더만
Tangayan.
고대
Sungki majangnya lo mampu ni rumah saya.
뭐 같이 성격
Allah.
뭐 같이
I want to welcome everyone to the official beginning of the winter event teaching portion. And so glad that everybody could be here to join us in these auspicious teachings. His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche will be teaching on Mahamudra this morning. And our guest Lama Khenpo Tsering Tashi will be teaching this afternoon on the Black Snake text. So, and then we're very happy to welcome back our translator, Megan Howard. It's been about a decade since she's been here, so we're really happy to welcome her back with her family. So everyone enjoy. Thank you.
Tenzin 포수 가던 장하다. 포구를 포 이렇게.
Nabi picture 그래. 그리 picture 그래. 나비 저 그래.
조금만 내가 다 그러면 제가 꼭 계속 해보자.
알았어.
오아호. 세자들이 로만보 챙송 기자 시에 정마도 요만데 로다과제 대라마 계획이 수송아 송탑제 직발에 대 상지 좀디데 송탑제 저 뒤턱고 요래 대대대다 다들 로레 참아 너무 사바리 오라 대다 납고 요래 뭐니 사바 직접 요 말에 그래 공이 상제군이 자발을 못 지송받아 땅 나선다고 책에 받아게 동적 받아요 말이지. 네, 이제 뒤서 공게 공적당에서 오늘 이 주봉 제세제 동 자와 산속 살는데서 다주 삼제의 咱们身体他们这里头上这届呢，你才去哈高要来的，总得弄上这人对吧？也是这点了，过到这些人得查要买的，别主要要买这个。
Well, it's been many years since I arrived in foreign lands, arrived in the West. And there's one thing that I've said over all of those years, over and over again. And it's the same thing that's been spoken by all of the spiritual teachers of the past. It's the same thing that was taught by Lord Buddha. There's one thing. We have to understand how to subsume all the teachings into a single point. And so many of you have heard this before, but for those of you who are new, I have to say it again so you can hear it. And so there's only one thought. There's only one thing that you need to think. And this is what the Buddha taught. This is what His Holiness the Dalai Lama teaches. This is what I teach to the best that I can. There's one point, and it is contained in Lord Jigten Sumgön's Gongchik, the single intention, where he says that all of the 84,000 heaps of dharmas can be subsumed into the point, the root of the 84,000 heaps of dharmas is bodhicitta. So what it comes down to is generating loving kindness and compassion for all sentient beings. If you have loving kindness and compassion for all sentient beings, if you have loving kindness specifically for all sentient beings, then you understand the holy Dharma. So it comes down to loving kindness. In terms of the conventional truth, this is there's nothing, there's no Dharma teaching beyond that.
Jamni lana me ba de chure ese. Ro lana me ba de gendurita. Cho song lana me ba jo de. Be kung bo de kon cho song de. Gari kung ma de de. De kon cho song ko bo ma de. Ti dong sim kung bo de. Dong chi le de nyang so de de kung bo de. De ro ma che. De ta ta. Zhong gari yo de de. Ro er zhong de cham zhou yo de. 다 될 공주치나 들이 메탈 파일을 이제 이런 거 오래 되니 다다 담저쪽 제시 영대 되니 멀리는 좀 로아를 정도 멀리 자탕이나 멀리 담저 슬람을 뛰는데 심이 들었다마도 매서 셔다 때는 문이 닫히는 게 되라고 찾아야지 심목을 듣다 심목 때문에 멀리 자탕는 로아를 저기나 메탈 파일을 뛰는데 매일 나라이리 산에 심이 들었다고 해서.
So when we eat food in the dining hall in the morning and so forth, we start with the offering prayer, which says that we offer the food to the unsurpassed teacher, who is the Buddha. We offer to the unsurpassed source of protection, which is the Dharma, and the unsurpassed companions, who are the Sangha. So these are the three jewels. And in Tibetan, the word that we translate as jewel, and the three jewels in English, the word means rare and supreme. So what does it mean to say that the three jewels are something rare? Why are they rare? Well, it's not that there's something intrinsically rare. It's that we have to understand what their significance is, and it's rare for someone to understand. So we have to have the right understanding, and then on the basis of that, practice. So what's our problem? You know, what prevents us from understanding? The sentient beings of the 6 realms, the 6 types of beings, are wandering in samsara because we don't have this understanding. And there are very many very, very many types of beings. And so when we talk about the worlds of humans and gods, the numbers of beings who have taken birth as humans and gods can fit. It's like the amount of a little pile of dust that can fit on your fingernail, compared with your entire body. Is the extent of all the other sentient beings. So that's why we talk about the rarity of the freedoms and endowments of the precious human body, that when we compare it to the vastness of the other 6 states of beings, it's extremely rare to have this precious human body. And so it's from that precious human body that we are able to tame the mind. So it comes down. So regarding this, Lord Buddha gave a teaching that's included in what's called the King of Samadhi Sutra, the Samadhi Raja Sutra. And so when I first arrived in central Tibet, and I went to Drikung Monastery, and I met a geshe named, at Drikung named Geshe Ngawang Punsok Rinpoche. And I told him that I wanted to renew my vows, that I had been through these trials and tribulations, and I wanted to renew my vows. And so Geshe Ngawang Punsok told me to rely on the Sojong practice, the Mahayana Sojong practice that's taught in the Samadhi Raja Sutra, and to uphold the Mahayana vows and the Mahayana Sojong, or renewal of vows. So there's someone here who has no education, has not studied the Dharma at all, except for only the 37 Bodhisattva practices. He knows a little bit, and that person is me. Now there's someone else who has started from a very young age with great diligence to study the Dharma, and that is Khenpo Tenzin. I saw him when I first returned back to my monastery, and we were able to rebuild the monastery. And right at that moment, he, as a young boy, entered the realm of studying the Dharma, and then he went off to Dzongtsar Shedra and Dzongtsar College in Derge in eastern Tibet, and where the rules are extremely strict, very strict institution. And so he worked so hard at Dzongtsar Shedra studying and so forth. So now we're at a place where I can ask him questions and he can answer them. He can even now start to teach in English. And so that's, when you work hard at something, that's what happens when people work hard. Then you have a situation like Khenpo, but that's not me. That's not what happened to me. I only know the 37 practices, nothing else, and even that I have trouble when I go to teach it.
One Garchen Institute go marty for jab, go day, they will not dare to come search on order. They take a go for it, order, go march up, go day jab. The real catching long nang, they want nang theatre. One nang theatre, that is the servant order, some of them money, what are you, human dead or it? Long nang ta katrina long nang the one and go long nanti the go ma te jap the not to some like it the go attack that long nang no to
So, for example, when I was receiving Dharma teachings from my teacher Chimi Dorje, I was always trying to run away, so he had to lock the door to keep me in to receive the various empowerment transmissions and so forth, and I was always sitting there wondering how I could get out.
The day just tongue mark. Don't do the Hong de Shang Jagman so then the Mozo song. The Saki can come at the Mambo Roy. So do my young time of the Lord. You take the Lord of the young time of the Lord. Quasi on good of the Lodona Majala, but there's a quiet girl in the Tam Georgie card. Let our hack or some. The congregation Tong of Dagomati. Mata to draw my young day, some will be tarry. That they don't really remember something. They really so chat over the tongue. Then Zoki comes from dinner, so comes to we come together. Come make them Tony the Osari song. The Tuki Menta Pigi that I made a doctor. Menta Jama they pay the watchable. Governing a mental young governor. Menta Chung Gagari. Menta Gagari. The Menta take Doctor. Menta Jama time to the back here. Panang Tomba so chat, kick young men. Bomba Gangla so chat. Legends Menta Junior. They say you have the virus. Cosme?
No.
So chat. Panang Tomba. So chat you have the daily woman. Menta Jam the teeth of it. So chat Menta Junior say you have the virus.
So finally, he gave me the 37 Bodhisattva practices and the Ganges Mahamudra, and these were short, so I started to read them, I read the 37 Bodhisattva practices many, many times, and eventually I started to have some understanding of it, just kind of on the literal level from the words. I started to understand something about the four thoughts that turn the mind and so forth. That's how I came to understand about the rarity of finding the freedoms and endowments of the precious human body. And so as I started to think about this too, I also started to think about, as Chimi Dorje was teaching me about human beings and other sentient beings. And, I did think, that is one thing that I did was think over these things in my head. Think, is this really true or not? Does it make sense or not? And so I started to understand that there really must be many, many sentient beings, many different kinds of beings and creatures in the three realms, many, many that we can't even see. So for instance, Lama Chimi Dorje always said that shooting guns is really bad. I really liked to shoot guns. Lama Chimi Dorje said it's very sinful to shoot guns because you think that you're shooting it through open space, but actually you get the negative weight of having killed 1.2 million beings as the bullet travels through that empty space.
Legend de Tatin Chamataba, Loto de Tetaranga Samatana Yabokoso, three to the song of Songoyo Kasakan Sogoyore, they were at the real list of the Madri, Tang Yang Lo, there's some Matantri, Siya Len Tachushego, Tevin said, Tachushego, the Chicha, Takashego, some of the Bekako, the Takalago, something. The real list of the Quag, so check, said Kashi Lap. Takadi Yunguna, Santa, Tetonta, but latte. Then I love Yati, control the course on the tree. Because Zigarbocha, Jibet Lang. Oh, Chushi and then I was here what is on those. She was here just over say. Tanga take so. Oh, that run quarter Jason, Dressare, some the Kong, something major by a Kongre, Jimmy Matuka, create up. The chatting Rava, Garchen Rinpoche, which is Garchen Rinpoche, Sami Hakore, the three, there is the Garchen and some Lotori, Yata, the Tete, Lotor can't chicky, they say, Sheva, they keep my mom when you do. The Rita, then the Choto talk to that. Tangadin Shekor, the whole time Nadine younger, Nadine, Shekon doctor, the Gadi, Pote, or a pay, Jepala Teresa. The him taking the evening body, go check it at the Gongton Tower Ding Gongi, then go check that in his Tashi body, then Nadine, the taking the evening body. Tino, the chili daman of a man boy, the Tachi, the Kaja Sam Tang, the giant.
So it's also through reading the 37 Bodhisattva practices that I started to understand about karma and cause and effect, and also impermanence and death. And so I started to understand a little bit about the four thoughts that turn the mind, and then I could hear Lama Chimi Dorje's teachings on them as he taught these same things to me. And so it's through reading the 37 Bodhisattva practices and receiving teachings on it, and then contemplating that, turning it over in my mind, that I started to have some understanding. And then suddenly I found myself in the West, and people said, now you have to teach the Dharma. And I thought, what am I supposed to say? Well, and so how am I supposed to teach the Dharma? And so I remember in the 37 practices, Bodhisattva practices, and I started to teach on that. But I didn't feel quite sure. Am I doing the right thing? Is this really the right thing or not? And eventually I met Alex Senkar Rinpoche, who's a very accomplished scholar and practitioner, whom I'm sure almost all of you must have heard of. And he kind of confirmed that, yes, when you teach the Dharma, the best way to do it is based on your own understanding. So he confirmed that. Then I felt better that, okay, I'm just going to teach my own understanding of the four thoughts that turn the mind. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I've done, to the best that I understand them, I've been talking about it. And so now we're here today. I was asked by Drupal Rinpoche to teach the fivefold Mahamudra, but this is really, something that the the different Drupans and practitioners will teach. But there is a book on the Fivefold Mahamudra. Really, for Fivefold Mahamudra, the main kind of source text is called the Tekchen Tengbei Ningpo, or the essence of the Mahayana teachings. And so for the Drikung Kagyu lineage, there's two really precious texts, the Tekchen Tengbei Ningpo, which teaches the Fivefold Mahamudra. So again, in English, the title is something like the essence of the Mahayana teachings. And then the second one is the Gongchik, or the single intention, that was taught by Lord Jingden Sumgön, the founder of the Drikung Kagyu lineage. So I have never studied these properly, but I have, Tekchen Tengbei Ningpo, the essence of the Mahayana teachings, is quite long. But I have read some lines of it and contemplated them, and so that's what I have to share with you today. So now, again, a Fivefold Mahamudra is a very kind of great subject matter, very extensive subject matter. But we start with the four thoughts that turn the mind, with talking about the rarity of finding the freedoms and advantages of the precious human birth, impermanence and death, the sufferings of samsara, and I'm missing one. What am I missing? Karma and cause and effect. Did I say that? Yeah. Okay. Starting from there, then you can also see these in the 37 Bodhisattva practices. You can start to get an understanding from there. And as you read them and contemplate them, then real confidence will arise. So for me, a great confidence arose. So that's something that did happen for me. And so because of my confidence and my faith in the truth of these teachings, I think that what I have to share with you does carry some blessings. So otherwise, someone of such a kind of, mediocre mind, mediocre intelligence and qualities as me, really doesn't have much business teaching the Fivefold Mahamudra, something so profound. And so, similarly, the fivefold Mahamudra then is a kind of like the practice of the Drikung Kagyu, how we implement the teachings of the Drikung Kagyu tradition, as practice. So I was worried about this, and before I was always bothered by this. So at one point I asked Khenpo Sherwozer about, Khenpo Sherwozer's someone very learned and also with great experience and practice. So at one point we were talking about fivefold Mahamudra, and I just expressed how kind of overwhelming and vast the topic feels. And Khenpo Sherwozer said, no, not at all. You have to grasp the 5 essences. Fivefold Mahamudra comes down to 5 essences. So you grasp those 5 essences. And at that point, I finally got it. Like, I got that understanding. It really, made sense. And so, it actually brings us back to the advice I received from the Geshe at Drepung Monastery a long time ago. Same thing. The Buddha taught so many different teachings to so many types of beings in so many worlds, but it all comes down to one point, he said, which, and then he quoted a verse from the Samadhi Raja Sutra that, to that says basically to the same extent that all of the Buddha's teachings come down to one point, and basically that point is loving kindness. So, so we have to, we have to be able to develop loving kindness for whoever we encounter. And so whoever you can encourage to practice loving kindness, then that is like, you're giving them a gift, and then you have to know how to also take care of that gift. You have to, when someone gives you a present, you take care of it.
That's
Now, Lord Jigten Sumgön has this as a famous song a song of realization about fivefold Mahamudra. And so in there, he has a verse about bodhicitta. And he says that that the mind, he compares that. He says we have to ride the horse of loving kindness. Well, that's how we can. That's how we can win the race of altruistic benefit for others. So what he says in this. In his song of fivefold Mahamudra is that all of the 84,000 heaps of Dharma come down to loving kindness and compassion. And then he sets up a metaphor where he says that our consciousness, is like a rider riding a horse. So our consciousness is the rider, and then the horse that is riding. For most samsaric beings, they are riding the horse of ego grasping. We are riding this horse of ego grasping, and so, whatever we're doing, that's what we're riding. And so the rider is constantly obsessed with I. Wherever that horse takes you, the focus is I, and grasping at the I. So from the standpoint of bodhicitta, we want to be riding the horse of loving kindness. So we put our consciousness on a horse of loving kindness, and then once you're on that horse, it almost doesn't matter where it goes. Whoever you encounter, any sentient being that you come face to face with, you will see each other as mother and child. And so you'll have this attitude towards all other beings as mother and child. And so when you do that, when you're riding that horse, then just almost by accident, just kind of as a side effect of riding that horse, your benefit for others is accomplished, kind of as a side effect. So it's loving kindness that is most precious. And that's what we find in Lord Jigten Sumgön's song.
There don't back it on that. Catchita, I shall you on my shoe and day. I might do back it on do it on that, but to take quiet and the English drop one on a song. Tapachi, touch all surgery, touch all and soldier, touch all dilly, Tapachin doors on your garden over Tanto, Tanto set on Chile, cocktail. That is the big change up among the dinner. Can't call song dinner. 특히 배제 잠소라 특파청 바지처 정도 다 대비 사고도 고서 다 특파청 대사에서 고차성 특히 배제 잠소라 될때 다 상촉sem리도 상촉sem 장 첩되는데 상촉sem 삼제 제모로는 다 사마 체미 받으오나 그 세대 잠소라고 차는 거여서래 디 샘지 탐체는 코로 샘지 탐체 디 하장 용용을 최예장 하장 용용을 특바 정말 바지쳐서 다들 코는 대해서 삼제대 하장 총자성 디 제보들이 다들 사족전 좋은 거지 다도 가도주로 뭐 강리에 송나다 다 삼제대 자치 보내셔 오예
건다 얼마 때 탈도 된 시라고 마서
탈도 탈바치는 노래 탈도 노로야요 디는 디 탈도 제일 로요라 디는 애들이 특바치 정도 그런 양마부 송을라 디는 또 책들다 특히 배세 장소라 특바치 뭐 빠지쳐서도 다 대집을 거는 대자 상주 특히 배세 장소라 특바치 세대 장소는 이래서 특바치 뭐 삼제 서로 몇디 세대 잡소는 일이시다. 삼제 총총진 가린 코르스진도 삼제 총총은 바조 소모 지장이 뒤에 쪼고고 니마트 샤는 감로라. 코르스진 담제 삼제 가테지를 도다 도보 하자 삼제 체슈에 니마트 초과자들이 가차로라. 다지 삼제 총총으로. 남자 바지쳐 특화 좀 바지쳐 다지 고도 바죠.
Oh, okay.
악수아.
거기서.
도랭기 아. 왜 다케바만 보여야 되면 가상 보래.
Yeah, we have many very qualified people here. Okay, so now when we think about, we go back again to what precepts should I uphold, there are so many things that the Buddha taught. If we go to the scriptures that were taught by the Buddha, it is vast, and how are we to uphold all of them? So again, I think we can see over and over again that the teachings that the Buddha taught are summarized in various ways. It always comes down to bodhicitta and loving kindness. So for instance, we can also see this it's called the Liberation Sutra, the Tardo that Lord Buddha taught. There's also a verse in there that talks about the difference between the yanas, the Mahayana. It says the Mahayana is like the ocean, and the lesser vehicle is like the water contained in ox's hoof print, right? And so the verse is talking about the difference between Mahayana and the smaller vehicle. But what it comes down to is again, it's about the bodhicitta, because in the Mahayana, from a Mahayana viewpoint, we have bodhicitta, loving kindness for all sentient beings. It makes your mind extremely vast, and that's why the Mahayana is vast, like the size of the ocean. Whereas, from the viewpoint of the smaller vehicle, and you have a much smaller amount of water, just the water that can fit in the hoof print left by an ox, right? So, that's kind of showing that the loving kindness or the bodhicitta is much smaller. It cannot extend to all sentient beings. So there's this difference in the yanas or the vehicles is really a difference in the degree or the extent of loving kindness.
요나 산지에 들어 뒤초 매다 산지에 들어 탑차바지 산지에 들어 상호만 남다 사촉생제 산지에 들어 상호만도 아들이 사촉생이 좀 책임용력을 상서 뒤모나데 배가서 도도 내려와 있는들이 때서 고사는데 노는 pen사해서 이게 이제 과 동거리지 때다 가서 이게 대체 다 산지에도 조선 안 좋으면 산지에도 탑매지 상태면은 좀 개발자들 주로 샘는 카르시시나자 주로 문에 샘근는 상태면은 주 산지에 탑 탑매지 대로 정도가.
So there's also a verse from Patu Rinpoche, an aspiration prayer that he wrote, where he says that if you have this, then you can certainly achieve Buddhahood. And if you don't have this, you certainly cannot achieve Buddhahood. You have no way of achieving Buddhahood. So there are many seeds of Buddhahood, but it all comes down to bodhicitta. So I really, when I encountered this verse the first time, I just really loved it because it says it so clearly. You can just, it's like a really nice soundbite. If you have this one thing, then you can achieve Buddhahood if you have bodhicitta. And if you don't, it doesn't matter what else you have. You can't. It is indispensable and required. So again, it's just to put a fine point on it, that it is bodhicitta that determines whether or not we are able to attain Buddhahood.
semji nam sangji ni so de semji semji deshi yungbo de la semji sangji de sangji zhong de ge song do da sangji mari de lo do yo ni song yo de de ga ri na sa de da sem de zhong de samji be zhong le de ne ngao nyama de din cha rom chi bo cha song de da nga de zhang nam no cha ngao nyama de 샘든 차롱지 뭐 차송데 들이 대 차롱데 쇼거는 이제 두고 쇼거는 두고 쇼는 샘근나가 두데 가리리 다 삼제래야 삼제 샘노는 뭐데 가리나 랑나 피바 이나 되와 갈나 터바 들이 갈나서는 되오 별로 쳐들 초촌장면들 가리 쳐는 통나 가리 제초가 배도 동서봐 단 차공은 월드 처리 정fin이도 거기 잡나 차도도 샘적이네 차공도 처리 제발때 상모다 다 대라샤지 대디 단딩의 중상 삼제의 용디야 차광도 최체발에샤지 대하고서
So, without it, there's no hope of Buddhahood. There's no way to gain Buddhahood. So, now what is a Buddha? We have to understand what are the qualities of a Buddha. So, usually this question gets answered as well. There is the Dharmakaya, there's the Sambhogakaya, there's the Nirmanakaya. There are these three different bodies of a Buddha. So, this is something we've all heard about. But what really is a Buddha? So Lord Buddha himself said, sentient beings are Buddhas, and their minds have the Buddha nature within them. So the minds of sentient beings and Buddhas are one and the same. But we can look around and see that we are, sentient beings are also not Buddhas. There are Buddhas, there are sentient beings all in the 6 realms of beings, the 3 lower realms of beings. We can see all these sentient beings who are not behaving like Buddhas. So what is the problem? Why does this happen like this? It's through a lack of loving kindness. So through lacking loving kindness, that is the problem. And through a lack of loving kindness, then we have this focus always on, this is me, I am the I. And that grows stronger and stronger. And so we end up wandering in samsara. And so now, when we say that the mind is wandering, we have to understand. We have to be able to put the words of the Dharma to use. So when I have this focus on I, then it's like my mind has frozen into ice. And so when I'm focused on others, then it's like that ice has melted into water. So through our self-grasping, we are like frozen balls of ice. But when we focus on others, when we develop loving kindness, then that ice melts into water, and that's something that we can use. We can drink it, we can do different things with it. You can't really do much with ice. You take a piece of ice and you throw it at someone's head and they'll bleed. That's what you can do with ice. But, so our mind, the minds of the Buddhas and the minds of the sentient beings are one and the same. Water is water. At the molecular level, I guess, but it's a difference. The difference between sentient beings and Buddhas is one of liquid and solid. And it's the fault of self-grasping that causes the ice. And this is really about the difference between the fault of having self-grasping and the quality of having loving kindness. That is the same as the difference between the ice of sentient beings and the water of the Buddhas. And that's what we have to understand. That's what we're trying to understand.
America project Levson, Toma, the Sajagama Toma, Jim, Poking, Jibrilla, when Jim's was a Kongdiri, Sanyu, the Kawajasan, some Sanyu, what's the Ariori? Kongdi Gay, Chirashi, the Karakan, the Tabazi, nine of the Yam the day, Bazo Korsachi, the Kor Kitashi or the Kitashi. Get a cashier, Taya Chibo communication, the 2 years in 8 years, the 7 Charum was a race, something on the church in your Tono. There was a Takachi tree, the monk for the irrigation you take Cote Courtney America Yara, Rosso. And Rosso with the irrigation there, they be a water and then a lady. Treat each other and Channel will catch a share was the registered laptop. 那就是而且艺术，就可能一个是这种，一个是他有的，他这里的他们的아메리카 뭐 가송세 이제 다다 초단 작용 배대로 삼제는 작용 작업도 샘데 로로레 처레데 삼제 매일 초단 작용 작업도 데 중이些이게 요마이.
So before I came to the West, at one point I was at Gar Monastery, an upper monastery, and I think Rinpoche said he was kind of in semi-retreat. But anyway, this American man appeared. It was the first Westerner I had ever met, and his name was Jim. And so he came to see me. And we couldn't really talk much, but I made him some tsampa, I shared it. We were eating tsampa together. And then, he wanted to talk, but unfortunately we couldn't understand each other. So talking didn't go very far. Eventually we switched to writing. And so I wrote down for him, he asked me to write something. So I wrote down that you must have loving kindness in your mind, and if you have loving kindness, then the ice of your mind will melt into water. And so he took that back to America, and he found someone that could read it for him. And so when I arrived in the West, actually this was in Rochester, New York, he said, someone said, "Oh, I saw what you wrote about ice and water. That's what you should teach." So, again, that's the history of this metaphor. But really, the main point, the only point that we have to understand is that if you have loving kindness, then your mind won't freeze. And if you don't have loving kindness, then your mind will freeze and into ice. And that is the point. There's no other point. And so it turns out actually that Jim is Jim here? So anyway, he bought a plot of land and gave it to the center. So, and then Jim gets the parts only. This such a new. So Jim was actually really instrumental in building the center that we have today here. So this was the first American that I met, that I had a relationship with.
내가 tourism 사람 저거도 타족 사지 고만은 독특한도 그래서 삼 샘때 삼때다 맞았나 샘때 맨저월에 산촉 샘때 삼때다 다라고 제네 그 다다만이 맞아 다상보나기 그때 내가야 보제다 봐 임히 주소 다들 파르도 서바도라서 좋다 봐 란동들이 주기자사 톱도만 이동들이 파르도 서바도가 선진 핀도 내가 제거도 내가 세면서 족셈 삼세오나 루가가 내가 제비나 피부사와서 다 접고도 사 대하고서 언제
Right. So it's thinking about bodhicitta, and then thinking about, what is a Buddha? What is a Buddha? Thinking about this over and over again, then I had this insight. I came to this understanding that the Buddha is like the ocean. Now, if you have an ice cube floating in the ocean, if you have some chunk of ice floating in the ocean, eventually, it will melt. And when it melts, it turns into the same water that is filling the ocean already. So this was the understanding that I came to. And when I saw that, I realized just how important an understanding of bodhicitta is. And I realized that what Lord Jigten Sumgön had taught was completely unmistaken, that we must ride the horse of loving kindness and compassion. And when we do that, that horse will take us firstly, here, temporarily to the 3 higher realms, and eventually it will take us ultimately to the land of Buddhahood, to the capital city of Buddhahood. And so, but it comes down to loving kindness. That's what we need, and so we have to get ourselves on this horse. Our mind is like a rider, and the horse that we should be riding is loving kindness, bodhicitta. And because if we're doing that, then we're going to be able to do things that benefit other sentient beings. And that's, then we're going to be able to practice the 6 perfections. We're going to benefit ourselves. We're going to benefit other sentient beings. And we will arrive in the citadel of the Dharma. And that's really what we are trying to do, is to benefit all sentient beings. That's what we need to do, is be able to do things that benefit sentient beings. And that's how we get there. There are 84,000 heaps of Dharma, and so we have to find the root of them. The root of them is bodhicitta, and that's what we need to hold on to, the root of bodhicitta and loving kindness. And if we can hold on to the root, then we can actually hold on to all 84,000 heaps of Dharma. That is the quality of the Dharma. But on the other hand, there are 84,000 heaps of Dharma, and we need to have some kind of foothold there. We have to have something that we can grab onto. And that is the essence. So it's the essence and the essential point of the 84,000 heaps is what we're looking for. And otherwise we have nothing. So the essential point is bodhicitta. That is the essence of all the Dharma teachings. It's the essence of all the Dharma teachings is loving kindness. So we're going to leave it here for the morning.
There is a Kawas of Mojula, such as the Lama the Gavishi Mambo Peguiore, Tate of the Metlangiri, Triteri, Tatana, Lama Gavishi Mambo Peguiore, Tribusu Kipo Tenzin Mojore, or Tenita Tsering Mojore, Tate of the Draught Drawing, Navishi Chebo Madi, Drawing Kipa Chebo of the Pebblantry, Nakalama Chatam, the Yamichi of the Denisha. Some drawing Kitashi, Cosmo the Yamado, drawing Cherry, Chawatari, Sabeka, Zamboyore, Chawatari, drawing Checoreti. The pass on a drawing che, like a cardiac drawing che, then he, Magot of the Mato, Roto, Soto, Mena, Chagari, drawing che, Choto, drawing che, Chimoyore head.
So I also just wanted to say one more thing, which is, this place where we are, so many spiritual teachers come and give teachings here. So we're extremely fortunate. And so, I want, you should ask questions of them, of Khenpo Tenzin and so forth. That, that's what I do actually, is that when I hear their teachings and then I ask them questions about how do I actually put this into practice. And so don't just leave what you hear as, okay, I understood. Don't just leave it as, okay, I heard that, but discuss it and ask your questions. You can ask Khenpo your questions, and don't just leave it as things that you've misunderstood. Don't let there be a chance for misunderstanding and misapprehension or something. But discussing amongst yourselves and asking questions of spiritual teachers is very important. So please do that.